God bless. I want to give honor to God who is the head over my life. Luke 16, 1 through 13. The subject is Jesus tells the parable of the shrewd manager. Jesus told the disciple there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possession. So we called him in and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management because you cannot be manager any longer." The manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig. I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." So he called in each of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450." Then he asked the second, "How much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800." The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwelling. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whosoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonored with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches if you have been trustworthy with someone else's property who will give you property of your own? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Okay, so let's get into this reading. Many explanations have been offered to this difficult story. The most likely is that the use of money is a good test of the depths of our commitment to the following. Jesus, here we learn at least three things. Our money belongs to God, not us. We must use our resources wisely. Money can be used for good or evil. We must use ours for good. Money has a lot of power. We must use it carefully and thoughtfully. When we live by God's kingdom priorities, we will use our money and resources in the way that will grow our own faith and obedience, and be an example to others. We are to make wise use of financial opportunities. We have not to earn a ticket to heaven, but to help people find Jesus. If we use our money to help those in need, to help others find Jesus, our earthly investment will bring eternal benefits. When we obey God, will the unselfish use of possession will follow. Our integrity is often put on the line for money matters. God calls us to be honest, even in small details. We could easily ignore heaven. Riches are far more valuable than earthly wealth. But if we are not trustworthy with our money here, no matter how much or little we have, we will be unfit to handle the vast riches of God's kingdom. See that you maintain your integrity in all matters, both big and small. Money has the power to take God's place in your life. It can become your master. How can you tell if you are a slave to money? Ask yourself these questions. Do you think and worry about money frequently? Do I give up doing what I should do, or would I do it in order to make more money? Do I spend great deals or time caring for my possession? Is it hard for me to give money away? Am I a debt? Okay. So let's get into this reading. It was a manager that God called. In this, it talks about Jesus told the disciple there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possession. So he called him and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management because you cannot be a manager any longer. So Jesus had told this rich man that he could no longer be a manager because of all the possession he was wasting. So he called him and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of all your management because you cannot be a manager any longer." So the manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job." Anytime God calls you to be a manager and you don't know how to manage money, that you waste it all away and now you are completely broke, um, he cannot trust you with anything big because you wasted it all away. So in this, there was a manager that God blessed with riches, but he wasted it all away. God wanted him to give an account for the management, for the money he spent, because God was telling him, "You cannot be a manager any longer." The manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig. I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." So he was saying to himself that if I lose my job, if God takes everything from me, then I'll just ask my debtors that owe me. So one debtor he asked, so he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first one, "How much do you owe my master?" The first one said 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill and sit quickly and make it 450. Then he asked the second, "How much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. And he told him, "Take your bill and make 800. The moral of the story is, be careful what God blesses you with and use what you have wisely, because it's not you that's making this income, it's God that's making this income. And he can take it away at any time, okay? He's the giver, but he is also the receiver. He can also take away things if you are not using it correctly. So this shrewd manager, God blessed him with riches. And he could not give account to God what he did with all of this money. So God said, "You can no longer be a manager." Excuse me. Jesus said, "You can no longer be a manager." So when this happened, the manager said to himself, "What shall I do? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig. I'm ashamed to beg." Always remember, whatever you have is only through the grace of God. And when you mismanage something, God have a way of taking it away. Money has the power to take God's place in your life. It can become your master. How can you tell if you are a slave to money? You can be a slave to money where you're trying to make money every day, like you're putting different contents up, you're putting things that people will draw to make money. And when you do that, you're a slave to money. You're not a slave to God, you're a slave to money. Okay. And what God will do when you become a slave to money, to do all this is what is called the love of money. This manager, he loved money more than he was more than he loved God. So God said, you know what? I'm taking you down from manager because with all the money that you have made, you've lost it all and you're trying to rebuild it again. So the Lord said, you know, you're not doing this for the will of the Lord. You're doing this to be a slave for money. And now I've taken it from you. You're trying to regain it back. But the Lord is saying, you can't regain something I take. Do I spend a great deal of time caring for my possession? It is hard for me to give money away, or am I in debt? In everything that you do, never put money ahead of the Lord, because he is in a position to where he can take it all back. Please read Luke 16, chapter 1 through 13. God bless.